Thanks for joining me. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler announced Monday morning that another 8 p.m. curfew was in effect and will last through Tuesday morning. This comes on the heels of widespread rioting and looting with damages in the millions of dollars. How did we get here? The Oregonian reports. Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler declared a state of emergency in the city early Saturday morning after a night of destructive protests over the death of George Floyd, a black man who was killed by police in Minneapolis. Several businesses were looted. Protesters set cars on fire, and the Multnomah County Justice Center in downtown Portland was ransacked. Protesters gathered around 6 p.m. Friday for a vigil in a park in North Portland, and later, many marched toward downtown as police kept their distance from the rally. The vigil and march were organized by activist network Pacific Northwest Youth Liberation Front. Who is this group that organized the rally that ended with the Multnomah County Justice Center being ransacked and set on fire? Here are some of the tweets from the Pacific Northwest Youth Liberation Front. May 30th. Ted Wheeler. The PPB. They can try, but they won't shut us down. Tomorrow, we'll be back on the streets. From May 31st. Don't let the pigs or media trick you. For 1 second, Portland police murder innocent black people too. May 31st. Forever and always anti-fascist. Hashtag I am Antifa. And from 2 days before the riots and looting, they tweeted, quote, all cops are bastards. This is the group that organized the event. I've heard so many in the local media bend over backwards to say that the peaceful protesters and the rioters are different people. But the group that organized the event on their public Twitter profile calls for violence and mayhem. If the KKK held a peaceful rally, anybody that attended would be judged. In the same light, if a group that calls for violence and anarchy holds a rally, anyone joining that rally should also be judged. And in my view, is also responsible for the millions of dollars in property damage. Now, I'm all for protests. And if you're under 40, there's a slim chance you've been to more protests than me. But if you're going to go to a protest, look at who's organizing it. It should be no surprise that an organization that promotes violence and mayhem will lead a protest that ends in violence and mayhem. Now, in coronavirus news, Sweden's COVID death rate is now 10 times higher than Norway's. The story from National Review. There have been 10 times as many COVID-19 deaths in Sweden than Norway on a per capita basis, according to Worldometer's website. 435 out of every million Swedes have died from the virus, while in Norway has killed 44 out of every million Norwegians. Norway imposed a lockdown to slow the spread of the coronavirus early on March 12th, but the country opened schools in May. Quote, our goal is that by June 15th, we will have reopened most of the things that were closed, Norway's prime minister said at the press conference earlier this month. In neighbor Sweden, by contrast, took more of a lax approach. The government banned events of more than 50 people and shut down universities and secondary schools, but imposed few restrictions. Now, it's difficult to know what the best approach is, and I'm sure there will be arguments about it for years to come. But I think this is evidence that for saving lives, temporary shutdowns was the best move. Christo, famous for his monumental works of art, dies at 84. His stories from NPR. Christo, as he's known, along with his wife and artistic partner Jean-Claude Denis de Guillebon, liked to wrap things up. In 1985, they wrapped up the Pont Neuf Bridge in Paris with fabric, and a decade later, they wrapped up the Reichstag in Berlin with an aluminum-looking fabric. Together, they completed more than 20 projects, including a 2005 piece in which they mounted 7,503 orange fabric panels in New York City's Central Park for one of the most famous installations, the gates. As a child in California, I remember going with my parents to see an installation he did called Running Fence. It was 18 feet high and 24 miles long, extending east to west near Freeway 101 north of San Francisco, following the rolling hills and dropping down to the Pacific Ocean at Pagoda Bay. The Running Fence was completed on September 10th, 1976. I've always enjoyed his work, and Christo will be missed. In happier news, the English Premier League and Spanish La Liga are back. Barcelona will restart their La Liga campaign at Mallorca on June 13th. 4 days later, on June 17th, English football will return from its corona-enforced break. I am personally excited to watch live sports again. That's it. I'm trying something different here. If you enjoyed it, please share it with someone. I look forward to your positive and encouraging thoughts in the comments. Peace.